So, if the assembly will gather together, please, I'm going to go ahead and open the meeting. Morning, lady. Afternoon, evening, or something?
What?
I said afternoon, evening, whatever it
this
is.
is beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hi. I got some ideas for you. Got a good book for you. Okay. Is it
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6:01 PM. This is a special meeting for Thursday, May 2nd, 2024, for budget deliberations. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
I will. Tim Hale.
Here.
Stephanie Nowers. Here. Dee McKee. Here. Robert Yunt.
Here.
Bill Gamble.
Here.
Dimitri Fonoff. Oh, he is here, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Ron Bernier, I'm expecting, and you do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, then the agenda is approved as presented. If you'll all stand, please, and Assemblyperson Hale, since you're presently with us this evening, if you lead us in the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on our agenda is audience participation. Do we have a sign-up sheet? We do not. I would just like to say on audience participation tonight, the item of business that we have is the budget, but the budget will not have a public hearing tonight. The public hearing portion on the budget has been closed. So if you came to testify on something on the budget, please testify under audience participation so the assembly has your input before they start the deliberations for the budget. Okay, and again, you're welcome to talk about anything under audience participation, but especially if you came to say something about the proposed budget for the next fiscal year. So I'll go ahead. We do not have a sign-up sheet, but I will open the audience participation. So anyone that would like to address the assembly on any subject is welcome just to come and present your testimony. Caleb, we do not have anybody. One last chance. Okay, I'll go ahead and close audience participation. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 24024, an ordinance appropriating monies from the central treasury for the borough operating funds, enterprise funds, educating operating fund, and capital funds, establishing the rate of levy for all borough functions for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, and ending June 30th, 2025, and setting the surcharge rate for the wireline and wireless enhanced 911 systems for the period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025.
Okay. As I stated earlier, the public hearing portion on the budget has closed, and the assembly now as a body is in deliberations. And did we give it to Rob?
We could, if we want to start with the, see if
Well, that's what I have
Okay.
there.
I didn't give it to him, but
Oh.
I'm sure he could do it.
Okay. So Deputy Mayor, I'll ask you to move the legislation, please.
I move to adopt ordinance 24-024.
Okay. The budget ordinance is now up for discussion, and any amendments, as the amendments are made, we will number them. And I believe some amendments have been given to the clerk, so I think maybe we'll take those first, unless somebody has an objection to that. Okay, I don't see any or hear any objections. Madam Clerk, if you go ahead.
The first one in the packet is a technical amendment requested by administration, Madam Mayor. I did have Assemblymember Bernier for that
Okay,
one.
so we'll give that one to Rob also then. So Rob, if you would, and should we do both technical ones, Madam Clerk, or should we take them separately?
Madam Mayor, they're one big amendment that don't need to be read into the record. It's just the top portion that he needs to read into the record.
Okay.
And they've taken together.
Okay, all
I
right.
move the technical amendment as presented by the administration below. Technical corrections to ordinance serial number 24-024 fiscal year 2025 proposed budget.
Okay, thank you. So now we have the amendment for both of the technical amendments on the floor for discussion by the assembly.
And Madam Mayor, that's going to be amendment number 1. If you see up in the upper
Okay.
right-hand corner, there's a place to number the amendments.
Okay. Is there any discussion on amendment number 1? Any objection to amendment number 1? Seeing no objection, then amendment number 1 has passed. Madam Clerk. Oh, is the,
The next one is
okay. Assemblyperson Gamble. This would be amendment number 2.
correct.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
I'd like to move amendment number 2, Port Enterprise Fund, Port Development, page 435, and proposed positions, page 542. I move to amend as follows and make any other conforming changes to the budget. The Port Enterprise Fund, Port Development by adding a Port Operations Specialist position and increasing the permanent wages 411-100 appropriation by $65,892, and the benefits under section 4112 appropriation by $50,294, and decreasing the temporary wages under 411-200 appropriation by $31,610. This is an overall increase in the Port Enterprise Fund budget of $84,576, and I'd like to speak to the amendment.
Okay. Discussion on amendment number 2. Yeah. You want to discuss?
I'd like to speak to it if I could. Thank you, ma'am. So recently, Sandy Luckett retired from the port. I've known Sandy Luckett for many, many years. In fact, she started with the port under Director Mark Von Dongen. Very experienced, and she was just working in the position as an on-call. She actually wanted to retire a couple of years ago, but she agreed to stick around to help the new port operations manager, Dave Griffin, to get his feet on the ground. But during that time, she conveyed to me that that position should have been a full-time position a long time ago. The port is getting busier. The port operations manager needs to focus on getting vendors out there and things at his level and not having to focus on office-type work. And so I would hope that you, that the rest of the assembly would join me in adopting this additional position, and I'd ask the manager to speak to it if he would also.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. And yeah, I reached out to Assemblymember Gamble. I'll first off apologize. I should have had this in the budget. But it came in a little bit later, and we talked about it, and I didn't want to do an out-of-cycle request, so I asked Mr. Gamble to move this forward. I agree. A couple years ago, if you'll remember, for those of you that were on the Assembly, there was a report that talked about governance and staffing. I agreed with the assessment at that time, but I didn't agree with the timing. So we stretched the position, probably stretched Dave about as far as we're going to get away with. And what I'm finding is they were now competing for having business development meetings and participating in events that can promote the port with his duties in operating the port. And I'm like, well, I don't want to take our foot off the pedal. I think we're at a bit of a point with the port where we just need to put, foot on the gas 100%, and we're either going to be successful or we're not. I think we will be successful. But the point being, we've been holding back and stretching. I think it's time to have 2 FTE here. This would allow the administrative functions and operations functions. I mean, when we have a cement ship coming in here in the next couple weeks, we have 1 full-time person to deal with that. It's a 24/7 operation, so we'll solve it, we'll figure it out, but Band-Aids aren't working everywhere anymore, so I think it's time to make the move, and the budget process is the time that we should have done that, and again, my apologies for not getting it built into the budget earlier, and I appreciate Mr. Gamble's support.
Okay. Further discussion on amendment? Yes, Assemblyperson McKee, go ahead.
So currently what is the staffing at the port? When you said it's like a one-man show, is it truly a one-man show?
So through the through the mayor to Ms. McKee, that's correct. Dave's the only full-time equivalent. We had 2 on-call positions. And both of those people retired.
Okay.
Now, the reason we were able to pull that off is because they were previous borough employees, so they had a lot of experience. And so they were able to step in, and I asked them to come back when Dave got hired, because I knew he would need some help and some history. And they gave us that. I really appreciate the Lucketts. They've done great work out there. We're not going to be able to replace that with an on-call position. So, yes, it's a one-man show right now.
I have to say, and you know, I've never been really excited about the port the way it's been going. However, I think that Dave has really done some good things, so you got my vote.
Further discussion on amendment number 2. Assembly from.
Just question, is there already somebody in mind to get that person, or it's just gonna become an open position and director's gonna work on the?
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Fanoff, that's correct. It will, if this is approved, it would go into effect July 1st, and we would advertise and hire through our normal recruitment process. We do not have anybody predetermined.
Okay, I don't know if this time, but at some time, I think it'd be good to hear from a director what he thinks, how that's gonna impact, and, you know, what it will bring to the port. I think that would be good to have it on record, having it heard from Dave himself, if possible.
Dave's back there.
Did you want to do it?
If possible, Dave.
Dave, come.
Guess my question would be, now that it's transitioning, just share what you have in mind and how that's going to benefit and what opportunity it'll give you more moving forward, having more time specifically focusing on potentially getting new customers, I guess. That's just what I want to hear from you.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. David Griffin, Port Operations Manager at Port McKenzie. Through the mayor, Assembly Member Fanov. So just to reiterate kind of what Mike had said, as well as Bill, we have been very fortunate to have the Lucketts come back into service, and they are truly servants for the borough. So it's kind of unique. They're big shoes to fill. And we did reach out. Well, a couple of things. One, hiring's really tough right now to try to find skilled people. It's a pretty interesting environment. And so under the 1,000-hour positions, that equates across a year time frame to about 20 hours a week, up to 29 hours a week. You can't work over that. And so that's a little limiting in itself, because once you go work over 29 hours, then it kind of kicks into entitlements, so health insurance, retirement, things like that. There are some exceptions. But when it comes to the port,
Assemblymember Bernier, could you please mute your phone? We can hear it.
Sorry.
Thank you.
but when it comes to the port, it's it's a pretty dynamic operation. It's not just a strictly Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 sort of working environment. For instance, we have the cement ship coming in on May 12th, Mother's Day. It is coming in the evening, so I'll be able to spend some time with my family that day. But nonetheless, we don't know when the ships are coming in. And so May is going to be a really busy month. The ship will be at port, the cement ship will be at port for approximately 7 days. Then we'll have a small break, and then the salt ship's coming in. And then today I heard that there's some negotiations going on for a fracking sand ship first part of June. So just to reiterate with what Assemblymember McKee was mentioning, like, things are happening. We are getting a little bit more business. Part of my role as operations manager is to, you know, take care of the office we have here at the DSJ, take care of the terminal building out at the port, manage the day-to-day functions of the port, which include a lot of certifications with the Coast Guard. You know, we recently went through our annual audit. We can get inspected at any time. As part of that Coast Guard certification, I'm technically a facility security officer under the Coast Guard Code of Federal Regulations. And so when we do have a foreign flag vessel at ship or at port, all those regulations kick in, and it's go time. So, you know, we have a really strict security policy that we have to maintain. Part of the role of my existing position, on-call or 1,000-hour position, is they're an alternate facility security officer. So they're also required to be out there. Ideally, we like to have 2 folks out there, but that's not always possible. And so what we had was a unique situation where we had a dedicated, meaning dedicated, a person that was dedicated to the job because she had done it for so long, that went above and beyond because she cared. Now that she's retired, we're kind of sort of back to square one to a certain extent. And so by bringing on this position, we'll actually be able to train someone. They will have approximately 50% of their duties will be administrative. They'll also be coordinating the Port Commission, because we meet quarterly with the Port Commissioners, and depending on business and how the port progresses, those quarterly meetings may end up going to monthly meetings. It just depends. But there's a lot of coordination there. We have 5 Port Commissioners representing different industries here in the Valley. And so there's the day-to-day functions of admin, there's the facility security portion of the position, there's managing, in effect, 2 offices, one here, one out there. When it comes to business development, things like that, that's more where I take the lead. But we're working on grants, we've got grant reporting. There's just a variety of different administrative tasks, budget adjustments, coordination with different departments, O&M especially. They play a big role in helping us run our facility. And so there's just a lot of moving parts. And so having a full-time position will not only sort of serve as a pressure relief valve, so to speak, but it's also, if God forbid something were to happen to me and I wasn't able to take care of our responsibilities out there, we've got a fallback person. And so up front, from the get-go, in this new position, we'll be able to demonstrate that, hey, this is a little bit above and beyond your normal Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. There's going to be times you're going to have to work a holiday, weekends, evenings. We've done barge loadouts till 1 in the morning out there. And so I need a right-hand man or woman, quite frankly. And so this position would really help us. And it would help us meet our obligations and our mission for the port. So I hope that answered some of the questions.
Well, just want to say I fully support that, since when I was there for the last salt shipment, I seen how much, to me, it almost seems like there's not enough employees there for how big it is, but for now we're adding this one. But I really hope that that gives you more time to pursue new business, and then you'll be asking us to give us another positions because we have more ships coming. Ultimately, that's the goal of it, and
Yes.
hopefully that's what it's going to come out of it. And I'd like to ask if this summer, if when you're going to be training that new position, potentially maybe Manager Brown will find a part-time or whatever the employee is, if they can also potentially learn, and so that we have more than just a couple of people that know how big, because as soon as you become more busy talking or making new deals with a new potential, we want to be able to have more staff available for you, because ultimately the whole idea is if we go in full force on this, and with the potential growth, there's no way there's going to be just operated by 2 people. Obviously, it's going to grow. So from that, I can see a lot of potential, but I also would like to see you kind of almost like a training more people if possible. So.
Further discussion by the Assembly? Yes, the Assembly Person McKee, go ahead.
So you don't have a crystal ball, I know that. You must have a schedule, though, of who's coming in and going out. Where do we see the port right now? Break even, still in the tank, gonna make some money?
Through the
Go ahead,
mayor,
sir.
Assembly Member McKee. The sort of the metric I've been using as of late is we are about $400,000 shy of breaking even.
I mean, to say that's all, that's really great, because that has not been the case. Go ahead.
And this could be a banger year. I mean, we brought the salt ship in last year in July, so that's FY24. We're bringing cement ship in this May. Then we're bringing another salt ship in, and possibly a fracking sand ship. So we could possibly have 4 vessels at port this year, it's probably been a while since we've had that many ships. Each time a big Handymax or Panamax sized vessels at port, it's roughly ballpark $100,000. We also are doing barge operations, and then we've got some permitting going on up top for some space and some buildings up there. So we are growing. There's significant interest. Tuesday, we had an officer from the Navy come out to the port, do a threat assessment, and it was interesting because being from the Navy, the Sea Lift is part of the Navy, and so this gentleman was actually able to explain to me in layman's terms exactly what all that means. And so what we're looking at is in August of '25, having a Navy Sea Lift at port for 3 weeks. And if that is a successful operation, then I don't want to, crystal ball here, they're talking about making that a regular event.
Wow.
And what that would be is sort of an operation for resupply for ships that are, battleships, combat ships, ships that need to be at the ready that are out in the Gulf or Lower Cook Inlet. They would use Port McKenzie as a base for resupply. And so that is building, and we've had 14 visits from the military over the last year. I don't think they would be coming out that often if they didn't take the port serious. There's also, above and beyond just port stuff, there's PMRE, there's West-Susitna Access, there's planning efforts that we're working on, so there's a lot of moving parts with the port. And I feel confident that we are gonna be successful. We've got a lot of support, and I will say that community-wise, we're getting nothing but positive feedback, so I'm grateful for that.
Thanks.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, I know you want to, I'd like to step in and ask the city or the borough manager. So, so if this amendment passes, then we really have almost 2 months with just one person. So in the present budget that we have as of today, is there an on-call position? And do you think there would be somebody you could pull in alongside without committing, but you'd be using that money just to shore him up for the next 7 weeks?
Yeah, so through the mayor, we have an on-call who's doing strictly administrative functions, but that's probably temporary. And then we have an applicant for the facility maintenance on-call that we're retaining. So the on-call that we're giving up is the administrative assistant position with this move. And then we would have to recruit and hire hopefully in the July or August timeframe. And we will have to backfill and help Dave out with other staff temporarily through the month of May,
Okay.
especially with those ships. But that's not uncommon, because when we run security and stuff, we never had enough people to do it all in-house. So whether in the past, O&M's helped out temporarily, we can always contract out security potentially. We just have to have enough people with TWIC cards that make sure that we can operate within the restrictions that the Coast Guard has. But we can use other, I hate to say it this way, we can use other personnel, I was gonna say bodies, but other personnel to help round things out temporarily. It's just we can only do it temporarily. And so we will figure that out.
Okay, great. Deputy Mayor, you had a comment too.
I just got a quick question about, you had mentioned earlier we're $400,000 shy of breaking even annually. Does your money, your budget, include the money from the leases that are out there? And the reason I ask is there are people leasing land out there that we know would not be there if it weren't for the port that does not get counted in that accounting. So I want to see if we fixed that accounting a couple years ago or if it's still that way. Because I think the port's doing better than it sounds, and I don't want that out there to the public. So that's why I'm asking. So.
Through the mayor, Assemblymember Yunt, a couple things with that. Yes, there is lease, we have one lease in the Port District, is generating some income. It'd be great if all that came into the port, to the borough, but there is the NPI settlement, and so a portion of any activity within the old NPI lease site goes into that NPI account. So we're not able to necessarily grab all of that. And we are working on an ordinance to sort of clarify the enterprise fund and the Port District boundaries and try to basically not compartmentalize the waterfront facility and the uplands facility, but bring it all under one umbrella, which would ultimately be under my purview. We have drafted that ordinance. There's a lot of code that ties back into it that needs to be addressed. And so considering we're going through this change with our personnel, we got a really busy summer ahead of us. I mean, I hadn't even talked about the pile sleeve construction project that's going to be out there all summer. What we're looking at doing now is sort of hit and pause on that not doing away with it, but just hitting pause on that until a future date. We were looking at July 1st, 2024, but now I think we're looking at July 1st, 2025 as our new community development director. Jillian is coming on board and getting onboarded. We're having some of these discussions because there are a lot of roles and responsibilities that need to sort of get figured out. And we just want to make sure we do it right, not in haste.
I appreciate that. I just want to make sure the port gets the credit it deserves. So it's not doing as bad as it could sound, and there are money that comes in because of that port that, you know, may go to land management or in other directions. And I just wanted to point it out because to me personally, I think it's the future of the Matsu Borough, and I want us to get all the credit we deserve out there. This community is its future goes through that port. So I just want to see the credit given. So that's all. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Further? Oh, yes.
I do have one more. About a year ago, when we were talking about this stuff, we seemed to be changing the direction of the port, which was to be kind of like a business kind of a zone, more than a port. Have we switched? Have we flipped?
Through the mayor, Assemblymember McKee. No. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat out there, but you know, we're looking at public-private partnership opportunities.
Yeah.
We are looking at business development. We're making a more concerted effort to reach out to industry leaders. We just had the Regional Economic Summit for the Matsu Valley. That was great. We took chartered a bus and took 50 people out to the port. Minds were blown. You know, once you get out there, as you yourself notice, I mean, you got to get boots on the ground, and you can see the potential. And like Assemblymember Yunt just mentioned, I mean, this whole Point McKenzie area is just ripe for growth.
It is.
I mean, whether it's the West Susitna Access or the PMRE, or even if that's not even there and the bridge isn't even there, there's a lot of private property at scale.
Yeah.
You drive out KGB Road, you can see the growth happening. I drive it all the time, so I'm slowly watching buildings go up and construction take place. And so I think that we're going to continue to see growth in that direction. And quite frankly, I mean, phone's ringing off the hook. I'm getting emails from all sorts of interested parties. You know, we call them tire kickers, but you got to give them their due diligence and their time, and that takes time too. I mean, tomorrow, for instance, the railroad's coming out. They're bringing 6 people, and all 6 people have never been out to the port. And these are people that are making decisions for the future of the state in the valley, at the port. And so getting them out there, showing them around, explaining what is going on, looking at maps, talking about business opportunities, it's all part of it. Even today, Angie Steffel from Representative McCabe's office called, and she was like, Dave, I need a list of all the businesses that are interested in doing business at the port, and I need it now. And it's like, okay. And so what's interesting, and I brought this up to somebody earlier tonight, it's, you know, it always gets back to the military. And so they're at the top of the list. And then from there, we look at energy, we look at commodities, we look at manufacturing and logistics. And so all those different categories of business are taking place, and those discussions are being had. So I hope that answered your question. I kind of rambled there.
It does, because the thing that kind of converted me from saying no all the time was, gee, maybe so. And, you know, now it has more of a dual thrust. I remember when I very first came onto the assembly, before I actually had my first meeting, Rob told me that was probably the most, important piece of real estate in the Matsu Borough. And I think he's right if we can keep it heading in the right direction. Thank you.
That's our tagline. So, all right.
Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the amendment. Thank you, sir. So is there any further, yes?
I just want to echo what you said earlier, Madam Mayor. Dave, I don't want you to get burnt out and go away because you're burning the candle at both ends. So, Mr. Manager, I hope that he gets all the support that he needs. Because I know last year, Sandy and Kenny actually had their motorhome out there. When the port was busy, they were living there 24/7 to make sure that somebody was there from the borough while you were doing your thing. And I'm worried that you're going to, be doing everything. So
Yeah.
I just hope that you get the support that you need.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, we're going to, thank you, sir. Okay, back to the amendment number 2. Any objection to amendment number 2 passing? Okay, seeing no objection, then my amendment number 2 And before we go to the next amendment, I would like to ask Assemblyperson Bonnier what time he signed on, please.
6:06.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Assemblyperson Hale.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to amend the budget as follows and make any other conforming changes to the budget. Area-wide fund, non-departmental, transfer to 415, 425, 430, 435, 440, 470, parentheses, 445, 220, by increasing the appropriation to the amount of $250,000 and adding the capital project Pioneer Peak Trailhead expansion for the amount of $250,000 with the following project description. This project will decrease the proposed fund balance and will not increase the mill rate. I'd like to speak to it if I could.
Sure, go ahead,
Yeah,
sir.
so this is a project that the Connect Community Council has been looking to get done for a long time. I told them that the best method for getting it done was through the CIP process. And they put together a good enough proposal that this project was rated first out of all the CIP project proposals. They were rated this year, and I hope the Assembly will support me in getting it done.
Okay. Further discussion, and Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
This is a great amendment. Good job. It's number one for a reason. I wish we could solve all the CIP projects this year, but it doesn't work that way. But yeah, great job, Tim.
Further discussion? Any objection to amendment number 3? Seeing no objection, then amendment number 3 has passed. So that's all of the written amendments that we have at this time. I'll open it up if anyone has a verbal amendment that they wanted to present. Any questions, or, yeah, and Deputy?
I
Mayor,
will
go
be
ahead.
bringing some that I'm working on with staff for next week, and I will respectfully file them Monday or Tuesday, so everybody has time to see them. So.
Okay.
And I as well will be,
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. I as well will be putting forth an amendment this next week, so.
Next week, okay, all righty. Assemblyperson
As will
Bonnier,
I.
did you try to say something, sir? Go ahead.
I will be doing the same thing as well.
Okay. All righty, so I guess maybe we are to the point then, Deputy Mayor, if you will take and move to continue the ordinance for our, so I think you have the motion there.
I move to continue ordinance 24-024 to May 9th, 2024.
Okay, discussion on that motion to to move forward. Any objection to the motion? Okay. So, we do not have a veto at this time. So I think we're to parting comments. Mr. Attorney, parting comments? No, okay. Assemblyperson McKee, no? Assemblyperson Hale?
Just thank you to the Assembly and get that project expanded, or that parking lot expanded, and it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be so much safer.
Assemblyperson Hours, parting comments?
I'm glad to see the port position pass and also the trail, and I think every assembly member has to hike it. We support it, so I'll see you all at the top. If you haven't done it before, it's quite, Austin Helmers was no shrinking violet or whatever you want to say. That is a beautiful trail, but it is a lung burner. I had the joy of being out at the Academy Charter World's Fair today. Those kids are so much fun, so much energy. And I was in the kindergarten tent, and they were quizzing me on which person, Thomas Jefferson, Teddy Roosevelt, George Washington, can't remember who lived in the White House or not. And I was like, I think they all lived in the White House. He's like, no. So he lifts up George Washington, goes, no. And I go, what's your name? He goes, Paxson. And he goes, yeah, my dad he works at that place. I was wearing my borough seal. I said, who's your dad? So anyways, Paxton did a good job.
Mike, do you have parting comments? Madam Clerk, parting comments?
For the assembly, I do have some family in town that just got here today, so I will be in and out, but if I'm not, please at work, please feel free. If you need me to do an amendment or something, just contact me on my phone, cell
Okay.
phone.
Deputy Mayor? Parting comments, sir?
Yeah, for anyone that's interested, there's probably 12 to 1,500 kids wrestling at the Menard Center all weekend. So we'll be there late tonight, late tomorrow night, and Saturday. There's probably 100 RVs out there if you're looking for your free hot dogs and possibly some other refreshments. Saturday night's probably the biggest party in the valley every year is the end of wrestling season. So that's where we'll be.
Parting comments, Assemblyperson Gamble. Did you warm up from the Academy Charter?
I am finally thawed out. Yeah, I got to enjoy Academy Charter this afternoon too, as a judge. And I got to judge the third grade, which was the Viking tent, the fourth grade, which was the Middle Ages tent, but the one that I really enjoyed the most was the first grade in the solar system. I had a first grader explain to me distance relativity by shrinking the sun down to 6 feet and where the rest of the planets would be if the sun was only 6 feet big. And it was just incredible to listen to a
Wow,
first grader
that's neat.
explain that to you. I really enjoyed it. Our charter schools are just amazing, along with our public schools in general. So anyways, thank you very much.
Parting comments, Assemblyperson Fauna.
I was gonna say, I also have a couple of amendments that we're working on with the finance director and Manager Brown, so we'll see them early next week, and hopefully we'll get to adopt them, and that's all I have.
Assemblyperson Benir, parting comments, sir?
I just wanted to remind everybody of the National Day of Prayer, and everybody just, we pray for our valley and our state and our youth, just everyone. Everybody needs prayer, and there's so much power in prayer. And thank you a lot. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 6:38.